it's Kayla, and today I present to you 13 books to read during the month of October. Sorry I haven't been around for a while. I was just getting used to getting back into the groove of school and everything, and I've been getting more of a workload, so it's just been a lot on top of a lot on top of a lot. But I'm back, and I am here, and I thought what better videos to start with for the season than, I have my note card here, if you could see that now. But what better video to make than a Halloween-esque video. I have 13 books to talk about today. 13, I thought it was appropriate for this month. What does this video entail? Well, I have 2 books about witches, 2 about ghosts, 1 about vampires, 1 about demons, 2 classics, a graphic novel, 3 supernaturally books in general, and 1 other. As you can see, the lighting is a little bit different today, as well as the atmosphere. I am in my new dorm room, and yeah, so the lighting is actually kind of better today. It's kind of ominous and spooky, and I kind of did my makeup today for this video, for the aesthetic of it all. And a little disclosure, I started this video at home like a few days ago, but then I forgot my battery in my dorm room, so my camera died. So some of the content in this video will be different setting wise where I usually film, and then the rest will be here. So just don't get thrown off if you see that or anything, just letting you know. Okay, let's get into the video. Beautiful Creatures by Kami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. Beautiful Creatures is the first book in the Castor Chronicles series, and I just love them so much. I talk about them all the time. I read them my sophomore year of high school. I think I've mentioned this. It's a Southern Gothic novel, which, what better thing to read in October? A Gothic novel. It's just this new, different idea for the South. The ambiance of it all is great, and the writing style, I think, is just very poetic, I guess you could say, and very detailed, but it gives you a really good feel of the story. But anyway, it's about this boy named Ethan Waite, and he's been dreaming about this girl for months, and he doesn't know who she is, but later he actually meets her in real life, the girl he dreamt, which is Lena Duquesne's, who is the niece of the town shut-in, or like Boo Radley, Macon Ravenwood, and nobody likes her. They think she's creepy and stuff, but then a romance forms between the two, and of course, chaos ensues like any crazy romance supernatural thing. And yeah, there's witches in it because Lena's a witch, or a caster as they prefer. So that's my first witch book, and I highly recommend it. Read the series, it's good. Sweep Volume 1 by Kate Tiernan. So Sweep is a pretty old series, actually. The first book came out in 2005. One of my best friends, I think I've mentioned this before, from high school, she loves this series. She recommended it to me, and I'm 3 volumes in. There's 5 volumes, 15 books in all. I love it, and I just never get around to reading the rest of them because I have the whole series, but for some reason I just keep putting it off. But this is also a witch book, and it's about a girl named Morgan Rowlands discovering that she is a witch for the first time. And what I love about this series is that it feels very real. Like the Wicca and the magic system behind it all feels really genuine, and you really can get your teeth into this story. And it's just so riveting and so easy to read because the books are very short, because it's a 15-book series, and the volumes, you just fly through them, which is why I still don't know why I haven't finished it. But yes, I highly recommend it. There's witches and romance and danger and all the things you would like for this October season, so go read it now. Okay. The Archived by Victoria Schwab. Moving into the topic of ghosts, The Archived by Victoria Schwab is about a girl named Mackenzie Bishop, and she is a sort of gatekeeper, or keeper, her official name is a keeper, of The Archived, which is basically a library full of dead people. The Archived is an archive of just dead people's souls from the past. It is her job to make sure they stay all in the same place, and when they escape, she has to bring them back. She's like the keeper of the keys, and she meets this guy Wesley, who is also a keeper, and she's never met another keeper before, I don't think. The story is just amazing. It's so well written. I love it. Victoria Schwab is amazing. I've been meaning to read more of her work, but The Archived and The Unbound, the 2 in the series so far, are excellent, and I'm just waiting for the 3rd book to come out. But I know she has so many projects in the works, and she has contracts, so it's completely understandable. But when that 3rd book comes out, you know I will be reading it for sure. So if that sounds interesting to you, if ghosts are your thing, then you should check it out. The Ghost and the Goth by Stacey Kate. Now, The Ghost and the Goth is the first book in a trilogy, and it is about two people named Will and Alana, completely polar opposites. They go to the same high school. Alana is the star cheerleader at the high school. She's very popular, but then she gets hit by a bus and she dies, and so she becomes a ghost. And Will is the goth of the story. He is has only two friends. He's very morbid. Nobody really gets along with him. The thing is, he can talk to ghosts. He can talk to the dead, and he's always hated Alana, but they have to work together to figure out this murder mystery that's been going on, I believe, or some type of mystery. And I really enjoyed this. I read it, I think, my freshman year of high school, maybe earlier. Like I said, it's the first book in a trilogy. The other two books, you really can go without reading them if you want. The first book's my favorite, and it could be just like a perfect standalone on its own. The other two books I just think are unnecessary, so you don't have to read them to like get the full gist of this book and still enjoy it, but you can if you want to. If you're looking for like a cheesy teen rom-com / supernatural thing, I think that is what you should read. Never Met a Boy on the First Date by Tamara Summers. So the only vampire book I have is Never Met a Boy on the First Date, and I read this years and years ago, probably maybe in 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade. I love this book. It is just such a light and entertaining read. I think it's the only vampire book I've ever read. Actually, across that, Vampire Academy I've also read, but I think Never Met a Boy on the First Date just like encompasses the fall season. Setting-wise, it gets you really in the mood. It's nice and like ominous and fall-y, and it talks about like the weather and the trees and the leaves and all that. But the story of Never Met a Boy on the First Date, love the title too, by the way, and the cover, is that it's about this girl named Kira. She is a vampire. Her family is full of vampires. They move all around all the time for obvious reasons because they never age, and she lives in this small town, and what happens is the quarterback of the football team in the small town gets killed, and her parents think it's her that killed him for prior misdemeanors that she's had, and so they tell her, okay, you have a week to figure out who killed this quarterback, or we're gonna just automatically think it's you, and we're gonna be tube feeding you in a coffin for like 1,000 years, which is kind of messed up, I know, but it's just up to her to figure out who killed this quarterback. She has 3 suspects, 3 cute, very handsome suspects that are guys, and she has to figure out which one killed him, except she might be falling for one of them. So I just think this is such a fun, light read if you're not looking for something as heavy this Halloween season. Highly recommend it for all the rom-com people out there. Just like The Ghost and the Goth, they kind of have the same feel to them, so if you like either of those, I think that's just the book for you. Breakable by Kimmy Garcia. Kimmy Garcia is the co-author of the Beautiful Creature series, which I mentioned earlier. This book I love so much. This book falls under the realm of demons and demon hunters and supernatural things like that. It's said to be kind of like a combination of the TV shows Supernatural and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I love both, so if that's your thing, then go ahead and check it out if you love those shows. It's about this girl named Kennedy Waters, and her mom mysteriously dies. And it's really tragic, and she's having trouble trying to cope with it. Her aunt wants her to go to boarding school, but before that happens, Kennedy finds out that her mom was a part of the secret organization that hunted demons, and so now it's up to Kennedy and this group of misfits that their parents or grandparents or relatives were also a part of the secret organization, and now it's up to them to still hunt these demons down, and they're called the Legion. It's part of the Legion series, another series that 2 books have come out, and then the 3rd book has just been pushed back because, again, Cammy is on contract. She has other projects to work on, so I'm just patiently waiting for the 3rd book to come out. There's Unbreakable and Unmarked out so far. They're both amazing. I highly recommend them, and there's also a slight love triangle in there if you're into that, so just check it out if that seems like your thing. And then there were none by Agatha Christie. I have 2 classics to show you today, and one of them being And Then There Were None. I love this book. I read it for school in the 8th grade, and it's been one of my favorite books ever since. I'm a huge fan of mysteries. I love trying to figure out who the killer is, or who did this, or what's going on, and this had me on my toes the whole time. You do not know who the killer is until the very last page. I am telling you, it is about a group of 10 people invited to this mysterious island by a unknown Mr. Owen, and Mr. Owen isn't there when they get to the island, and they have this dinner party, and what happens is somebody keeps picking them off one by one and killing them. The greatest thing about this book, I think, is that there's like an afterword from the killer saying, this is how I did it and this is why. So I just think that's the best thing about this book, because it's like, you read the ending and you're like, wait, that's it? But who killed them? What's going on? And so you find out later, oh my god, this is a killer. I can't believe it. The storytelling is just amazing. The cast of characters are so vivid, and this book came out in the 30s. I love Agatha Christie. She's amazing. She's an amazing writer. Rest her soul, because she's just brilliant, and her stories live on, and I think this is just a great murder mystery to read during this season. If you really like classics and you like murder mysteries, this is the book for you, and any Agatha Christie book is the book for you, honestly. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. This story is an oldie but a goodie. Everybody knows Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the story of the guy who had dual personalities. I think this is just such a good read. Again, if you're into classics, I think Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is really good and spooky for this Halloween season. There have been plenty of movies and remakes going on. Right now I'm watching Once Upon a Time, one of my favorite shows, and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is featured right now, so if you want to get more backstory on it, if you watch Once Upon a Time, then you should read this book. It is very good, and I highly recommend it. So it's about this guy, Dr. Jekyll, and he tries to make this potion or this scientific experiment to try and get all the bad stuff out of him, but instead he just makes a dual personality with everything, all his the essence, the horrible parts of him into a different being, and he keeps flipping back and forth between the two, and he can't control it until the ending, and I'm not going to spoil it. So yeah, if you think you like psychological, like thriller / murder mystery stuff, then I think you should read that. Yeah. Deadly Class Volume 1 by Remender. Deadly Class is a graphic novel series that I think 4 volumes are out right now. It is very gruesome, I have to say. If you're not really into like violence, sex, and drugs and things like that, explicit things like that, I don't think it's the one for you, because it's very vivid. I love the art style, but some people might not be a fan of it. But the story features the main character, Marcus, who is a teenager, and he is an orphan, homeless on the streets, and he is picked up by this group of people, and they take him to this school for assassins. And basically it's a high school for assassins, teaching teens how to kill people. And so yeah, of course some violence is going to entail, but the story is just really good. And the plot twists at the end, every time, I'm always left on my toes, and the climax, and I want to know what's next every time, so I really want the 4th volume. I don't know when it's coming out. I've read the 3 volumes so far. I haven't really kept track of the series recently, so I have to figure that out. But get a gist of some of the art style. Like, here it is. I'm trying to find stuff that's not too vivid right now, but yeah. That's Deadly Class for you. It kind of gets a little weird sometimes, but it's one of my favorite graphic novel series. Like, before I started reading Saga, this was my favorite graphic novel series, so I highly recommend it if you're looking for something not too hard to read during this month, and you love graphic novels, and I think this is the one for you. The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. So, the next few books I have here are just supernatural-esque books in general, and The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater, I talk about it basically all the time. You've seen my little discussion about The Raven King when I was ranting about it first coming out, and like super excited, and also my fan cast for the series. I just love these books so much. It's one of my favorite series. Maggie Stiefvater just has such a way with words. Her writing style is just so interesting. And even though at times it can be a little slow pace, it's worth it for the payoff, because you get so much backstory and detail, and this is definitely a character-driven series, and you fall in love with the characters so hard, especially Ronan Lynch. Oh, Ronan Lynch story, if you don't already know, is about this girl named Blue Sargent. She comes from a family of psychics. All the women in her family are psychics, except her. She's the only one who doesn't have this ability, except she has some type of special ability. She kind of acts like a battery for the other people in her family who are psychics, meaning whenever she is around these psychics, their psychic abilities are enhanced and they can get better readings. And the thing is, from her psychic family, Blue Sargent has been told her whole life that she's going to kill her true love. So every year there's this thing called St. Mark's Eve, where the soon-to-be dead walk graveyards. What happens is Blue comes with her mom for St. Mark's Eve to watch these soon-to-be dead walk by, their souls or the ghosts or whatever, so her mom can get a good reading, write the names down, and let these people know, hey, you're gonna die soon, you should probably prepare. This year, the year Blue is 16, instead of going with her mom, she goes with her half-aunt Neve, and when she goes with Neve, she finds one soul, but the soul won't talk to Neve and isn't cooperating, so she's like, Blue, I don't know why this guy isn't talking to me, and the thing is, since Blue's not a psychic, she can't see these ghosts, but she can see this one ghost. His name is Gansey, and she talks to him and she says, what's your name? And he goes, Gansey, and she says, that's it, and he says, that's all there is. So her family is wondering why she can see this boy, because the only time a non-psychic sees a ghost on St. Mark's Eve is 1, if they've killed them, or 2, they are their true love. So for Blue, it could possibly be both. And the story continues from there, and Blue meets Gansey in real life, who is on his own quest, and it kind of goes from there trying to stop Gansey's death, along with another side plot where Gansey is on a quest to find a dead king and wake him up. I'll leave you with that so you can go find out on your own for the rest of the book and the series, because it's absolutely amazing, and I think it's a lot better going into it without knowing too much about the story, just because you just get so much more out of it that way. Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. I love the Miss Peregrine series. I have not read Library of Souls yet because I just finished reading the Hollow City graphic novel to just refresh my memory, but Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, such a good book, such a good series. Love Ransom Riggs. I read this first book my freshman year of high school for book club, and I don't regret it. This was when Miss Peregrine's was still very underground, and it's just such distinct and awesome way of telling a story, because Ransom Riggs collects vintage photographs. He still does that, but at the time he wasn't really an author, and so he had this idea to create a story out of these pictures instead of the other way around, which I think is so interesting, and the pictures are just so cool to look at and add to the story to get a really good visual perspective on it. It's about a boy named Jacob, and his grandfather, Abraham Portman, used to tell him old stories about his past during the war, and where he took shelter at an orphanage where Miss Peregrine and the other peculiar children stayed, and he told Jacob these stories about these children, but when Jacob grew up, he didn't really believe it anymore. But when his grandfather mysteriously dies, he decides to go to the orphanage in Wales where his grandfather grew up for answers, and the story goes from there, and it has supernatural elements in it. I know a lot of people have probably read it before, but it's just like such a different take on time travel. It's very interesting, very unique. The story is just told in a way like no other before. It's so good. It's like a breath of fresh air. And I did see the Miss Peregrine's movie, and I do have opinions on it, so maybe I'll share them sometime soon. Maybe I don't want to, but yeah, I'll do that. We'll see. The Accident Season by Moira Fowley Doyle. So I actually am currently reading The Accident Season, and I am loving it so far. I am not even 100 pages in, but I had to incorporate it into this series because it's like the epitome of a Halloween/October book to read during this month. It's just so fast-paced and enjoyable, and you just want to get to what the mystery is and what's going on. It's about this girl, Kara, and her family, and every October, during the whole month of October every year, they become extremely accident-prone. Some years, it's just a few cuts and scrapes. Other years, it gets really bad, like the year Kara's father died. This year in particular, the year Kara is 17, supposedly gonna be... Shut up, motorcycle. Supposedly, it's going to be the worst year yet. Kara, her sister Alice, her stepbrother Sam, and her best friend Bee try to figure out how to avoid this supposed worst accident season yet. And the story goes from there, and it's just really interesting and very spooky and just a really good one for this season, and also takes place during the fall. So there's that aspect to it, and I think you'll like it. Panic by Lauren Oliver. Now, this is the only book that doesn't really have anything to do with fall or Halloween or October, but I still think it's a book that you could read during this time, just because of the psychological thriller aspect to it. Panic has two main characters, Heather and Dodge, who are playing this game, Panic, for extremely different reasons. Panic is a game that is played in this small town when nobody has anything to do, and it takes place during this summertime. Different people compete to win this like absurd amount of money, because everybody who plays the game puts in like a certain amount of money to play, and all the people participating, all the money they donate goes to the winner. And the game is basically a game of Panic, because whoever is the game makers, they deal out different dares for the people to do, and this is not the run-of-the-mill, oh, I dare you to ding-dong ditch, that kind of thing, because here's how it goes. The very first dare, that's always the same dare every year, which is kind of like the initiation of the people playing the game, is they jump off this extremely high cliff into the water in their town, and it's very dangerous, and they can get severely hurt. Just an idea of how that goes. It's a very entertaining read, very fast paced. You can read it in a day. I did basically in a day. I love Lauren Oliver's writing. It's not like the best book she's written, but it's definitely the most entertaining in my opinion, so I highly recommend reading it. Who loves that book? Panic? Ah! Nicole!
Yes?
You love that book?
I love Lauren Oliver so much.
You love Panic?
Oh my god, it's so good.
You want to come in and recommend Panic?
Oh my god, no.
Yeah, so apparently my roommate loves this book too, so you should read it too, okay? Okay. So those are all the books I have for you, 13 books to read during the month of October. I hope they were helpful. I hope you get some ideas to read during this holiday season. October is probably one of my favorite months. Halloween is my favorite holiday, so you know I'm going to be dressing up. I'm super excited. If you want, you could guess in the comments below what I'm going to be for Halloween, because it has something to do with a certain new Netflix series that I have talked about and love. So yeah, you could just guess about that. I mean, a lot of booktubers have loved it as well, so that could give you an idea. Anyway, those were the books. This is me not having anything else to say, so I will see you sooner rather than later with a new video. Bye!